Story 1. Buy a penthouse apartment, preferably one that takes up the entire top floor. Get myself a home gym built, a personal trainer, a personal chef to cook all meals, and a personal shopper, cleaner, and personal assistant so I can spend a year just working on myself without having to do any of the everyday chores. Story 2. Buy 20 Mini Coopers and park them outside my house, mainly to confuse everyone. Story 3. Well, the first thing I need to do is pay the rent. I would like to buy a couple of hats, a motorcycle, a couple of quarts of perfume, and some Muppet toys. You know, Ernie, Big Bird, and the frog Kermit. I thought maybe a statue for the church and a snow cone machine for you. You like snow cones, right? Story 4. Create a dog shelter that spans many acres, acting as an open, safe haven for dogs on a euthanasia list. I am working on getting rich so I can do this. Story 5. Someone already said hire people to build an enormous catio, so I will go with hiring a personal chef to feed me delectable goodies. Story 6. Hire someone to teach me how to manage that amount of money. Story 7. I'm rich and believe me, you better have a purpose in life because life will get very boring. Story 8. Establishing an impressive home base by building a dream home. 4 stories below ground and 2 stories above ground. All the luxurious amenities including a pool, arcade, and theater. I would hunker down in this sanctuary for a good period of time, then do some traveling. Story 9. Immediate out-of-pocket healthcare. Or I suppose I could afford really excellent insurance. Either way, I am getting my medication. Story 10. I would still walk around in my worn clothing with holes and stains because that is who I am. There is no need to pretend otherwise. Story 11. Honestly, I would love to open up an animal shelter for stray cats and dogs. The upkeep for those is really expensive, and then I will only spend on myself and the people I love for quality of life items. The rest I will try to save up and invest, perhaps. Story 12. Help intelligent individuals start their own businesses. It is important to understand that obtaining a degree does not guarantee intelligence or the ability to perform certain tasks. Story 13. Invest. Find a way to become wealthier. Give my family members a nice vacation. The effort will never end. Story 14. Invest 50% to increase wealth, 25% to savings, 20% for parents' use, and 5% for personal use. Story 15. Buy land and let nature return to its original state. Wildlife is suffering because of human greed. Story 16. I am wealthy. I have a wonderful family, 2 cats, a job that I enjoy, and can afford all the hobbies I want. I can go on vacation to any destination. I have my health and my peace of mind. Being wealthier than this is just an illusion. Story 17. Honestly, nothing. Depending on how wealthy I become, I would first quit my job. I would pay off my debts and travel the world the traditional way, spending half a year in each country, living like the locals. Story 18. First, tell me, how rich is Elon Kr compared to your older brother? Story 19. Retire my parents, buy my dream car, and buy my dream gaming setup. Story 20. Build my parents' dream house and retire them so they can spend the years left enjoying themselves. Story 21. I want to buy a bigger home on a large block without neighbors. I also need a new car urgently. There are so many things I need. Living paycheck to paycheck is very depressing. Story 22. You mean if you suddenly became wealthy? How wealthy? I would buy a house. Story 23. Let parents and loved ones live comfortably. Volunteer to help good causes and enjoy gaming. I would love that life to be pay to win. Story 24. Depends on how wealthy you are. If wealthy enough, I would buy as many social media platforms or businesses as possible. Money speaks to these people, so offer enough and they would sell everything and even thank you for it. Alternatively, if available, buy enough shares to gain majority ownership, then initiate a buyout. The best use of money is investments that generate more money without requiring your active involvement. Story 25. Spend nothing until I have invested enough to secure my future for life. Wealthy people position themselves so their assets generate millions every year, even if they face liquidity challenges. Once that is set, within a few days or weeks I would support my parents and wife. Then I would start buying things I have always wanted, which is not much. Some old Mario games and a replica Spider-Man suit, maybe a nice car. Most of what I buy would be additional assets such as land, islands, houses, and buildings. Story 26. First, I would retire in a nice middle-class neighborhood house. Then, I would start buying my friends and family everything they need to feel comfortable in life. Story 27. Call my difficult, freeloading sister and let her know firmly. Story 28. I often feel average, but I do have 2 houses. Seeing how many people just want a place of their own makes me realize I am somewhat wealthy. I inherited them when my parents died when I was 19. They did require some work. One house has a buyer, and I will keep the other forever. If I were wealthy, I would adopt more street cats and maybe a dog if they could get along. I have only 1 cat but help my neighbor with his 4 cats and dog because I know he is struggling. Having a passive income so I do not have to work most of the year would be my definition of wealthy. I hope you acquire enough rental properties so you do not have to work until old age. Story 29. I would invest in meaningful causes and experiences, starting with helping those in need. Story 30. Fix the things in my house that I want done, retire my mother, and then find a cool project to work on part-time. Story 31. Depends on how wealthy you are. I am already somewhat wealthy, and I have decided to only work on things I like and enjoy and make things happen. I also try to help other people as much as I can. If I were extremely wealthy, I would found a startup in a specific field and devote my time to making it successful. I would also help other people in need, for sure. Story 32. Make sure my wife and I can retire as soon as possible, living a worry-free life without luxury. It depends on how much money is needed. Then help my family and my wife's family. Story 33. Have my decayed teeth extracted and then replaced. I am tired of living in severe pain every day. Story 34. Right now, I would buy a Republic of Gamers Crosshair Extreme X570 and a Radeon RX 7900 XTX Nitro Plus. After that, I would move out. Story 35. Honestly, the very first thing would be posting a picture or something to make haters jealous. Story 36. I think it would depend on what kind of rich I would be. If it was a one-time thing or something with continuous money. Also, it would depend on how much it was. The first thing I would really want to do is pay off any money I owed. Story 37. Treat my family to expensive food that will hopefully taste better than it costs. Story 38. Buy a home for myself and one for my sister's family. The rest will go into exchange-traded funds or similar investments to make the money work on its own for the future. Story 39. Pay off mine and my family's mortgages. It is the biggest drain for all of us. Of course, wealthy could mean anything really. Story 40. Pay off the house. Get a night nanny every day of the week for the 3-month-old baby. Buy a stake in my workplace and delay the entire project to allow some breathing room. Keep working because I love my job. Story 41. I will continue to earn wealth to help those in need. There is nothing I desire in life. Story 42. It's all about the family and gifting those who helped me when I had nothing. They come first. Then I will splash out on myself afterwards. Just like Christmas, I want to see others happy first. Story 43. Pay off bills for friends and family while establishing trusts for some of the neighborhood children. Story 44. I am taking my boyfriend out for a very special dinner. Story 45. Buy a ski resort in the Alps and run it. I would also live there. Story 46. Relax. The constant grind, the hustle, and the worry would be released. I would feel like I can breathe. Right now, every day from the moment I wake until I go to sleep, I can't breathe freely. I have a good life. A nice house with a mortgage, an investment property, a nice car for my wife, a company car for me, no credit card debt, another car for fishing and camping, and a classic Mercedes in the garage. A pretty high-end audio system and an extensive vinyl and record collection. But every day I worry that it can all be taken away in an instant. I know it's just stuff, but it's what makes me, me. I don't have family who care about me or that I talk to. I don't have close friends that I connect with, so those things are what I have. Story 47. First, clear all of my debts. Nothing would make me happier than to know that I do not owe anybody anything. Then I would start researching ways to preserve that wealth and live off the interest. Story 48. Get a large ranch-style house with land, animals, and enough rooms or guest houses for my family. Story 49. Since I do not care about wealth that much or showing it, I would rather keep away from everything and everybody for a week or so, just to think about the future and how I would use the money. Depending on the amount, I would prefer to keep it a secret, so people would not overreact or think differently of me. Of course, I would first settle all debts and probably gift some of it to my family and friends in a way that does not cause any rumors that I am wealthy. That is just the way I am. Over the years, money has become something that does not drive me forward, but if I need some, I will know where to get it, and I know an opportunity to make some will present itself to me. Somehow, I seem to think less of myself, so I spend my own money too much on others or just share everything I have. It is not the right thing to do because I will keep myself from actually using it responsibly, but I see that people who understand reciprocal deals or lifestyle have always done the same for me, so I am not thinking too much about it. Story 50. Buy my parents a house and retire them. Save a big chunk for my younger siblings' education. Then go for a short rejuvenating vacation while investing the rest. Story 51. Well, I would still sleep in tomorrow. I feel like being unemployed and rich probably comes with similar sleeping habits. Story 52. Send my parents on vacation. Buy a property in Lake Como, Italy. Find a wife and start a family. Help our struggling relatives by getting them education and proper mental health treatments they desperately need. Continue working at my jobs, although less intensely. I currently work 70 hours a week, including university. Open small cafes and bakeries. Story 53. Take the opposite of a stress nap, whatever that would be called. Story 54. Pay off parents' debts. Buy a home. Sleep properly. Story 55. My wife takes half and goes her own way. Then I have certificate of deposit accounts and live off the interest. I need a 400 to 600 square foot home for myself and my dogs somewhere wooded and quiet. I want to keep a small garden. Visit prostitutes once or twice a month. Enjoy good whiskey. Read lots of books. Maybe adopt a raccoon. I never want to work again. Story 56. Buy the house I want to get married in. Help a few friends to advance their careers or buy houses closer to each other. Then have fun traveling for a month once everything is settled. After that, work less, spend more time with the dogs, get fit, and paint all my Warhammer figures. Story 57. Buy a car park in central London, remove all the parking space lines, make it open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and make it completely free to park. Install closed-circuit television and watch the chaos from my expensive sofa while eating fried chicken. Story 58. I would transfer a large amount to my mother, enough to retire her and allow her to live a luxurious life. Then, I would text her to have fun and take a break somewhere for 6 months. Story 59. Buy back our family farm and, beyond that, probably keep enough to pay my bills and give the rest away. I have never been interested in being extremely rich. I would like to have enough to avoid stressing about bills and health issues, but beyond that, I do not care to have fancy cars or huge houses. Story 60. Buy a house. I hate watching most of my paychecks being spent on rent, which is well-earned money going down the drain. Story 61. Define rich? No matter the amount, I would buy an empty plot of land in the middle of nowhere and abandon society as it abandoned me. I would set myself up for sustainability, then distribute the remaining money as evenly as possible to causes I believe in. Story 62. Purchase a camper for our children. Repair our truck. Disconnect from the internet for 1 year. Story 63. I will probably continue with my life. If I am rich, it is just normal for me, so why would I do anything different? Story 64. In Sydney, Australia, just buy a large number of houses and live off the rental income. Story 65. Buy some land and start developing my enclosed system autonomous farm. I could spend years tinkering with the robotics and software involved, and this combination would actually feed my family. Story 66. Pay off my house, buy a nice big camping van, and drive somewhere nice for vacation. Story 67. I would divorce my husband to get rid of the mental torture I am experiencing from his family and his habit of avoiding confrontations and accountability on all issues. Story 68. How wealthy are we talking? Buy my apartment complex, about 120 units, wealthy. Pay off my mother's house and hire help for her, moderately wealthy. Early retirement, wealthy. Buy anything, wealthy. Story 69. Give most of it to family and friends. Then leave the United States. Story 70. Make my parents retire. Gift them a farmhouse. Make many investments to safeguard future income. Then work on my art. Story 71. Invest in different sources and start my business to own restaurants and cafe chains. Story 72. I would sleep for 8 consecutive hours. Then I would make a really good breakfast and go for a run. After that, I would wash my clothes and work on the garden. Later, I would have a delicious dinner. Afterwards, I would take a bath and relax on the couch with a book before heading to bed. This is my dream. Story 73. 1. Tax accountant. 2. Retire my mother. 3. Some real estate and a regular car. 4. Things I have always wanted but could not afford that are not very expensive, such as a new smart television, a nice sound system, some musical instruments, open-back headphones, and similar items. 5. Financial advisor, of course, still do your own research, but having a professional financial advisor to guide you in investment decisions will be helpful. 6. Start passion projects that will generate income in the future, helping maintain wealth along with dividend returns and other financial products. 7. Help others in the community thoughtfully by identifying root problems before providing financial support. 8. Take my mother to nice places in my free time. Story 74. Turn off my daily alarm that wakes me up at 6:45 and has done so for the majority of the last 40 years. Everything else would be a bonus. Story 75. I would buy houses, go on vacation for a while away from here, and then I would consider whether to quit and never work again. Story 76. In 2018, I was rear-ended by a semi-truck. I have had multiple surgeries and months of therapy. When I finally received my settlement in 2022, we bought our dream property. A 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house on 20 acres in rural Michigan. I paid off our SUV loan and have committed to $50 per month to tunnel to towers ever since. Story 77. Depends how rich we're talking, but I have always wanted a butler. Story 78. Depends on how wealthy I am. I'll probably spend some of it on indulgent things, set some aside so I don't have to worry too much about my financial future, and with the rest, I'll try to do something good for my fellow human beings. Story 79. Retire my parents, pay off their house loans, buy a house for myself with a library, get a farm and live a slow life. I will grow and cook my food. Sometimes I will read. Occasionally, I will throw parties for family and friends by cooking for everyone. Basically, I want to be a grandmother at 30 desperately. Story 80. Therapy, nutritionist, personal trainer, nice place to live with my girlfriend, 6-star world cruise. Story 81. Buy a group of politicians and do whatever I want afterward. Story 82. Buy the New York Giants, hire the worst possible people and run the franchise into the ground. Story 83. Setting aside 20% to invest, paying off any debts, buying 2 properties, one to live in and one to rent, and using the rest to live on while working and saving or investing most of my income. Story 84. Perhaps it would not be the first thing I would do, but I would hire an architect to design and build a house for my family. Story 85. All the bills, family, and food. I have always wanted to have a home server for machine learning and artificial intelligence. Story 86. Buy my mother a house and pay all her bills for 20 years in advance. Story 87. Open a restaurant that allows anyone to eat for free. This is not my idea. It was from my former babysitter. She can cook exceptionally well, and I was amazed and inspired because this is her dream. Story 88. First of all, I would go to the dentist and get my teeth fixed so that I can eat meat or nuts normally. Story 89. Mom is no longer working and will spend the rest of her days experiencing the world with me as we slowly rebuild our distant relationship. Story 90. Buy my mother a house and pay all her bills. Pay her college tuition and make sure she never has to work this awful job again. Then travel with her and my siblings. Story 91. Disappear. I promise you I am going to disappear for a solid 6 months. I will send a monthly text to my family letting them know I am okay. Hire a lawyer first. Hire an international chartered accountant. Hire a solid equity manager. Make sure nobody, including the government, can touch my money for the next 50 years. Then set up a monthly disbursement for living expenses with fun money included. Get a decent car like a Land Cruiser. Get my family and parents into the car. Go on a road trip to see the world and create lasting memories with the people I care about. Story 92. Offer free art classes for children and adults. Provide a variety of high-quality supplies. Supply food during the classes. This would be very enjoyable. There is no community where I live. None. It would be nice to have a community or at least offer one for free. Story 93. Move to the European Union, then file a civil lawsuit against a few Reddit moderators. Story 94. Buy 2 houses, one for me and one for my ex-wife so my daughter will always have a place to live. Story 95. Working on this right now. 1. Retire my wife. 2. Get a property in Africa and some real estate, then live there after turning 45. People are still natural there. Leave the media negativity alone. 3. Buy a Porsche Cayenne as it can go to most places while keeping me looking amazing and stylish. Also, I would love a Land Cruiser for outdoor activities. There is a version just for this. 4. Expand my treasury bond profile. 5. Eat wild animals and plants, climb trees, swim in real natural water bodies like lakes and rivers, continue having sex, the most important part of our life, with my wife and have maybe 4 or 5 more children. I want to see about 6 or 7 versions of genes inside our bodies. 6. Die in a small village house because that is all we need. Story 96. Pay off my mortgage, renovate the house, buy a newer used car, and open a cat sanctuary. Story 97. Well, in case of sudden wealth, first, I will not tell anyone about it. Second, you will never know. Story 98. Make sure my mother and friends are taken care of. Then I would get myself a little farm with enough space for all of us before starting any other projects. Story 99. Pay off my medical debt from cancer, which will be ongoing, and credit card debt. Story 100. Seek the best medical advice I can get. Buy a home. Treat my partner to whatever she wants. Story 101. Fly me and my girlfriend out to the Philippines to physically hand her family a large amount of money. No more financial stress for her family anymore. Plus, I get to finally try Filipino-grown mangoes. Story 102. Figure out which city I actually want to live in. Then buy a reasonable but expensive 30-plus story condominium there, with a view of the mountains, the ocean, or both. Story 103. I would make myself less rich and make a trust richer by transferring money into the trust for work. Story 104. Quit my job, take a cruise, and figure out what to do with the rest of my life now that I do not have to work anymore. Story 105. Retired. I make my sleep schedule from 12 a.m. to 8 a.m., catch up on sleep, focus on diet and exercise, and enjoy less stress for myself and my family. Story 106. Buy assets, invest in stocks, experiment with a new business plan, make a travel itinerary, go on several road trips, indulge in adventure sports, and create a fulfilling and therapeutic experience by cooking my own meals and trying out different cuisines. The list can go even longer. Show me the money. Story 107. Rehabilitation, health insurance, housing, paying off debt, exercising, nutritious food, returning to school. Story 108. Paid off home first. With the free time from being unemployed, I would spend a good amount of time volunteering. My city was hit very hard by Hurricane Helene. Story 109. pay off debts, and then live a quiet, unproblematic life doing what I do now or something similar to pass the time. Story 110. Quit my job and pay off any debt my family has. Visit my friends in another city. Lie in the grass. Story 111. Get my credit clean. Everything, student loans, random medical bills, anything, gone. To be debt-free is to be mentally free to do everything and anything in the United States of America. Story 112. I live in my own country where there are no good work opportunities. I have to travel abroad to earn a decent income. Story 113. Move my timelines up. I have a 30-year mortgage to pay off. Story 114. I would say I am somewhat wealthy. What I am focused on is ensuring that my money does not disappear. My biggest concern right now is to do something on my own, something I love doing, and earn more from it. If you are asking what I will spend the money on, it is travel, not on luxury items. Story 115. I would create a foundation to help people going through breast cancer treatments. There is enough for them to worry about without having to worry about paying bills. Story 116. Wake up without an alarm clock, make some coffee, and go outside to smell freedom for the first time. Story 117. Get a new couch, fix my fireplace, and still drive my 2006 Honda Accord because nobody needs to know I have more than $500. Story 118. Work much less. It would be hard to have a normal job. I would be like, no, I'm not feeling fully rested, back to sleep. Story 119. I would finish the bathroom remodel I promised my wife a few years ago. Story 120. Repay all outstanding debt with interest at 100%. Then spend as long as necessary improving my health and wellness. Physically, about a year. Mentally, 2 years or more. Living has become very expensive. Story 121. Finish watching the Orville and go to bed. I might be rich, but I am still very tired. Story 122. Holy sex, day and night. Rest will be spent on the needy anonymously. A normal life is a rich life for me. Story 123. Buy multiple houses, retire my father, invest a lot, and finally buy my dream car, a Koenigsegg. Story 124. Depends on how much money I have, but I would probably quit my job and start with a vacation in a warm country. Story 125. Open a bookstore and cafe, and also go on vacation every month. Story 126. The funny thing is, after you get it out of your system, not much changes unless you were broke previously, in which case, statistically, you will become broke again later. Story 127. I had saved a good amount of money for all 3 of my children, enough for college or trade school, a car, and daily living expenses. This would cover groceries for 2 years while they found work. Hopefully, that would be enough to help them because their mother and father are going on vacation to Poland. Story 128. Buy a secluded island and live there. No more talking to people. Story 129. Take out private healthcare for the family, possibly move elsewhere or abroad. By Alfredo. Story 130. Literally replace all the devices I own and build my own home laboratory. Story 131. I would make my parents' lives so much better than they ever imagined. Story 132. Go back to a timeline where I chose happiness over wealth. Story 133. First, I would go to sleep and wake up to make sure it is real. Second, I would help all those people who helped me but have not been thanked enough, starting with my parents. Story 134. Travel would be nice without having to worry about the costs of current flight prices and overall expenses in general. Story 135. Buy a house, have savings for at least 3 children, get health insurance for our parents, my fiancé, and me, have savings for ourselves, buy many assets, and then I will go and learn a lot of meaningful and useful things. Story 136. If I became rich overnight, the first thing I would do is buy some land with a decent house on it. At least 10 acres, preferably more. The house would have 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, a big kitchen with a greenhouse attached. Outside the greenhouse would be a garden, with workshops off the garage and cabins scattered throughout the property, preferably a creek running through somewhere. I would use this to help young adults who have aged out of foster care and teach them to be self-sufficient. The workshops would teach them a trade, and the greenhouse and garden would teach them how to grow their own food. The kitchen would, of course, be used to teach them to cook if they want. The cabins would provide a place to live peacefully and safely until they are ready or able to live on their own. A few properties like this would be wonderful. Story 137. Buy my mother a house. Pay off my house. Set up some solid bank accounts for my children. In an alternate universe where I have no responsibilities, attend heavy metal festivals all over the world. Story 138. Donate some money to the children's hospitals so sick children can have a better chance of life. Story 139. Pay off my debt, then buy a house, pay off my family's debt, and give each family member $100,000. I would invest the rest. Story 140. Go live. Stack them all in one place, spill some lighter fluid, pull up a cigarette, and then throw the lit lighter on the cash without lighting the cigarette. Watch it all burn. By this time, I am trending live. I watch until all the money turns to ash. Throw in my unsmoked cigarette. The people ask, why? So unhinged. Cringe. Because I can. Forget your money. Story 141. If rich means having $1 million, I would buy your love. Story 142. The first thing I would do is buy a house. I am fed up with homeowners who treat us poorly. Story 143. Assuming the classic Reddit advice has been followed, go to a doctor. Story 144. Buy or build condominiums for my friends who are being overcharged on rent. Story 145. Clear my and my family's debts. Buy a house and put aside just enough to live comfortably. Use every cent left over to fund a campaign or project to get the Liberal National Party removed permanently from the Australian Parliament at both federal and state levels. Give Stephen Miles a generous tip. Story 146. After the obvious things, I would go on a vacation abroad. I would travel with as little luggage as possible, and if I found something I wanted, I would mail it home to pick up when I returned. I might do this for a month or a year. Who knows? It would be something to look back on when I am old. Story 147. Since buying a house is a step that will take some time, the very first thing I would do is give $1 million to 5 random very small live streamers just to see their reactions. Story 148. I would buy a house in the place where I want to live, take a 2-week vacation to a new location, and invest the rest. Story 149. Retire my parents and help my grandfather. Pay my debts. Help other people and animals on the streets. Invest in several funds and real estate. Keep my plans private. Fix my house myself by learning to repair everything. Travel and study other languages. Spend time improving my health through gym, body massage, yoga, and martial arts. Learn everything needed to start a business and how to automate it. Be with a different woman every night. Avoid having a girlfriend or spouse as it is financially risky. Go to fancy restaurants. Enjoy life as much as possible while helping others in difficult situations. Story 150. Get that full body scan that Mr. Wonderful talks about. Scan every inch of my body yearly to make sure any cancers or diseases are caught super early. Story 151. Get some good, deep, and restful sleep every night by not worrying about rent and bills. Story 152. I am going to buy a house and hire a chef who can make the best food. Story 153. Go camping, turn on low-fidelity music, look up into the sky, sip my cider, and really take in the thought of freedom, to now be able to do as I please. Story 154. Put all the money into a mutual fund, take some of it to buy a house in the countryside and spend my life there. The remaining money may be for my children in case they want to live in an urban area. Story 155. Give it away now. I do not need it. Story 156. Buy my single mother of 3 best friend a new car, fill up her checking account, and pay off her debts. Story 157. Take a breath, enjoy a bowl of great cannabis, and take in the day. Story 158. Get a lawyer and financial advisor. Pay off all my debts. Have my forever home built. Ensure that my close friends and family are taken care of. Pay off my father's house. Spend the rest of my life pursuing every passion I have ever had. Story 159. Fix my teeth so I can eat without having to worry. Go to the doctor to check my overall health. Buy a reliable vehicle so I do not worry every time I drive. After that, learn how to live without constantly worrying about having enough money. Story 160. Buy a good plot of land and build a self-sustaining farmhouse. Story 161. Create multiple income sources for myself. Invest in real estate, systematic investment plan, and the stock market. Story 162. Quit my job, buy a farm, start a nonprofit shelter for domestic violence women and children, and travel the world. Story 163. Pay off the house, set up a trust for my child, ensure that I am comfortable retiring as soon as possible, and then take care of other people in my circle. If I am very wealthy, I would like to establish investments that regularly support local social programs so they will never need municipal or provincial funding. Story 164. Pay off bills and then create a plan to share and make the world a better place. Story 165. Make sure my family is taken care of before I get a house with a secret underground room. Story 166. I am going to perform a heart-lung transplant for my wife, and it usually costs around $150,000 here. Story 167. Sort out my parents, then I am going on a feast. All the foods I have seen in mukbangs. Yes, I crave Popeyes. Story 168. Invest in something that would provide me with a passive income and buy myself multiple sets of the same clothes. Story 169. If I were rich, I would not be doing anything at all. If I became rich overnight, that would be a different story. Like most people, I would pay off all of my debts and then take a long-deserved holiday. Story 170. I would buy my own apartment first of all. Since childhood, I have lived in fear that I could be evicted at any moment by my landlord or stepfather. Story 171. I have no debt. My parents are happily living their retired lives in their hometown. I would definitely buy a small farm for them, then construct an underground bunker for myself. Story 172. Spend 90% on women and alcohol, then probably waste the other 10%. Story 173. Depends on how rich. 10 million in my bank account. Buy a nice house around 150 square meters in a cheap area. Do the same for my mom and my dad, all acceptably close to me but not too close. Set a limit for the remainder divided by 12 times 60 for me to use each month and live a nice life. Even more money? I honestly do not know. Give it to friends and family or something. No clue. Story 174. Spend multiple hours worrying about how I suddenly have so much money to my name. Story 175. Send money to my parents. Then pay off my debts. Then quit my job. Story 176. Depends on how wealthy you are. If you were talking about being very wealthy, I would make all the members of my family as wealthy as possible. Then a couple of friends, and finally donate the rest to charity. Story 177. Most probably, I would create assets and buy all the courses about entrepreneurship so that I could become more stabilized in terms of money management. Story 178. I'll go to McDonald's to buy a Big Mac, large fries, and a large Coca-Cola. The waiter would say, "Would you like a menu?" I'll respond, "No, I'm rich." Story 179. Can't we say we are already rich though? Like in the way that I feel no one will ever feel rich enough, I don't know. Story 180. Can't we say we are already rich though? I feel like no one will ever feel rich enough. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.